everybody. I'm Jessica with BCID.
And I'm Jose Hernandez with United Spinal Association. Thank you for joining us. It's been a little while since we've done our last presentation, and we're here with Jean Minkel. But before we get to that, we're going to go over some of the ground rules and
Yeah.
housekeeping.
So if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section because they get lost in the chat. But talk amongst yourself if you wish in the chat. You are only going to be able to see and hear us. You can't see and hear each other. And we have the wonderful Mary here, who is our ASL interpreter.
If you
Oh,
need
no, go ahead.
if you need to see her specifically, you can right click on her image and pin her on the screen. We also have closed captioning and live transcription. You can use access those by clicking on the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen. And I'm going to put in the link for the live transcription into the chat. So let's get started with our presenter today. We have Jean from ICS. She has many, many years of experience doing wheelchairs. And please, Jean, introduce yourself and, take it away.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. My name is Jean Minkel. I'm a physical therapist who has really specialized in the wheeled mobility needs of people with long-term disabilities for really my entire professional career. And for the last 20 years, I've had the pleasure of supporting ICS members, and in the last 2 years, a greater number of wheelchair riders in New York City through our clinic called On a Roll. So I'm going to start by sharing my, who can share? I need permission to share the screen. Sorry, folks. There we go. Let's see if I can do it now.
You should be good now.
Yeah. Hopefully everybody can see now. So well, let me get rid of that. There we go. So I'm really excited today and want to offer to all of you that those of you who have the lived experience could probably teach a whole nother seminar on this exact topic of why custom fit matters. So I really want to encourage you to speak up and put questions in the Q&A, and hopefully we'll have a really lively exchange. I'm coming at this topic after years of working within the seating and mobility recommendation, meeting people in their own environments, seeing people in homes, and really gaining a huge appreciation for how important self-generated mobility in devices that are comfortable and functional on a daily basis. So I want to start with a thank you. There we go. To both organizations of BCDI and United Spinal. BCDI are new neighbors in the ICS Brooklyn space, and we have a full wheelchair clinic in that same space. And anybody coming to visit BCID are welcome to come over and see our space as we open up, which will probably be more in the fall of 2021. Our clinic right now is open, but we're for safety of both our members and our staff, are appointment only. And then also a big thanks to United Spinal, and in particular the NYC Spinal chapter. You guys have been terrific partners in both advocacy of people with wheeled mobility needs and real examples of how life on wheels is a full and participatory life, provided you have the right wheels. So, oops, different direction. So I want full disclosure. This topic is really about complex rehab technologies, and this work is complex. So take a pause, give yourself some time, think about some of the information that's being shared. And the reason that it's called complex rehab technology is we're trying to meet your needs, a person's needs, medical needs, functional needs, environmental needs through the piece of technology. And so there are limits to technology, and it's important to speak up and say when a piece of technology is not actually meeting your needs, because that's how we really move to solutions that not only allow for function, but way more importantly, allow for full participation. So a seating and mobility service, much like the honor roll service here, we need to understand your functional abilities, your mobility needs, and I'm going to emphasize your mobility needs in your routine environments, home environment, community environment, work environment, recreational environment. What are your postural needs? How are you sitting against gravity over long periods of time? For those who have risk factors related to skin integrity, and those risk factors can be a lack of sensation or an inability to move to unweight your buttocks, or perspiration, or a bunch of risk factors, and even your body size can impact your skin. And as I mentioned earlier, your mobility needs are in a context, they're in a mobility, in an environment of use. So I love this graphic because it's really showing an intersectionality, and it's not just one thing. It's not, I got you the right posture, too bad you can't access the wheels. Or good news is you have the right cushion, but you're not able to perform a pressure relief. So this is all of the intersection that makes complex rehab complex. From a insurance company perspective, and frankly from a professional physical and occupational therapy perspective, there are what's called a hierarchy of assisted mobility devices. And we often are asked when working with a client, please tell us if a quote lower cost technology meets this person's mobility needs. And that hierarchy goes from cane crutcher walkers to manual chairs to scooters to power chairs. And if for any reason the person's not able to self generate mobility with any of these devices, then a dependent mobility device is what's considered. So you may, in looking at a letter of medical necessity, somebody writing, you know, because of quadriplegia at the C6 level, the person's not able to self-generate manual wheelchair. They can't operate a scooter. It's in fulfillment of this hierarchy of mobility need. I just want to walk through really quickly. Obviously, the cane, crutch, and walker are examples of mobility aids. So they're really designed for somebody who is a functional ambulator, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, to have increased stability, increased safety, increased comfort level. So I love this picture because to me it helps to define what's functional mobility. And in this particular case, it's what's functional ambulation. So clearly the woman crossing the street is using a walker, and this walker might be absolutely fine in her own home. But as I look at this picture, number one, she's yards behind other ambulatory people. Number two, the walk sign has already changed to don't walk. And you could be sure that that happened 3, 4, 5 seconds ago because the bus is already gone through the intersection. So, in a really concrete way, I would characterize this client as being somebody who, in a community setting, doesn't have functional mobility. she's not able to maintain walking speed at a pace that would allow her to safely cross a street. Once we leave mobility, assisted ambulation or walking devices, we move into this category of wheeled mobility. And I just want to pause because I just so love the evolution of this symbol. And the more I thought about this topic, I mean, like this symbol illustrates no customization, you're likely to be stuck. Optimally configured wheelchair, you can be an active participant in your world. And this is really where wheeled mobility has evolved. And as I say that, I, as a physical therapist, have worked my professional career to be sure that wheelchairs are viewed as a tool to let somebody be fully mobile. I have to be candid. Not everybody in my profession sees a wheelchair the same way. And oftentimes, the absolute symbol of disability is the wheelchair. And customizing a wheelchair can really move somebody from being stuck and not mobile to being able to have self-generated mobility. And it's really an important key to being fully participatory in life, particularly in the community as well as in the home. So let's look at manual wheelchairs. And I'm going to go pretty quickly through this part because these are basically chairs. If you are relying on wheeled mobility for more than 2 hours a day, you should not ever have to experience this type of chair at all. These are standard manual chairs, fixed axle, really designed for transport from the front of the hospital to the x-ray department, or from the TSA gate to the where you're flying out of. They are not designed for full-time mobility. When I think about manual wheelchairs, the first questions that I come to is, what's the person's method of self-propulsion? Are they self-propelling? Do they have the capacity or the capability to self-propel with both arms? Are they most likely to use one arm and one leg? Or are they going to be self-propelling just using their feet? Because the method of propulsion very much contributes to what's called optimal configuration. What's the setup or what's the adjustability of a chair in order to give somebody the most effective method of propulsion? So if someone's propelling with both arms, they have the strength, the capacity, the coordination to self-propel. I want to be sure I can move that axle as far forward as possible. That's going to make a manual wheelchair easier to self-propel, particularly on uneven terrains or anything other than a flat surface. If someone's using one arm and one leg, the seat to height floor becomes very important, as well as moving that axle. And then finally, for foot propellers, being sure that the seat height allows someone to what we call heel strike. Just like an ambulatory person starts the step by putting their heel to the ground, that's how a foot propeller is going to be most efficient when propelling a manual chair. Oops. So when I'm looking at lightweight manual chairs, one of the first things I'm looking at is, what's the range of adjustability at that axle? And this is what they call a K4. It's a lightweight. I'm going to say it's the first rung of manual chairs because axle adjustability is quite limited. I can flip this around so that I have up and down, and I have forward and backward of the back post. But that's about it. How do I know where somebody needs the axle to be? This is what optimal configuration looks like. I have a person who's able to relax their arm to their side, and their middle finger is in the middle of the hub of the chair. Now, to get the wheel in this location, I need to have an adjustable axle. If it's set up in the right place and the person has had mobility skills training, then they're able to use this wheelchair setup to negotiate their environment. This adjustable axle is available in K5 chairs, much bigger adjustment opportunity here. And K5 chairs come with both a cross frame. So this is an option if you're folding the chair side to side, as well as a rigid frame chair, which in some rigid frames chairs, I have a ton of adjustable axle position because I can move the position on the seat rail itself. So it's individual preference with regard to, do you prefer a cross frame chair or do you prefer a rigid chair? The key is, do I have a chair that I can move the axle to optimally configure for your mobility skills? I want to share with you now a video that was done thanks to the Nielsen Foundation out at the University of Washington. And I'm going to stop sharing this so I can link over and be sure everything's working. And what I like about this video is it helps. Come on, baby. It links for you the relationship between your posture, your mobility. Can everybody hear?
Video 13, Wheelchair Pushing, Wheelchair Design. Good form when pushing a wheelchair can help you avoid arm pain and fatigue over years of use. But form involves more than technique. Propelling well depends on having a custom wheelchair fit that encourages upright posture, as well as wheels that are easy to reach and push. Your posture affects your propulsion form, and your wheelchair influences your posture. Sitting with a slouch causes neck and arm pain when wheeling because the joints are in a harmful position. Sitting upright will protect your joints and muscles, but may feel less stable. If you do feel unstable, have too much pain, instability, or tightness to have good posture, you may need adjustments to your wheelchair cushion, backrest, or frame to support you in a comfortable upright position. If you sit too high above your wheels, you will not be able to reach the handrooms effectively. A guideline is that you should be able to touch the center of the wheel with at least the tip of your middle finger, or even your palms when you dangle your arms at your sides. Secondly, you will not be able to reach the handrooms well if you're sitting too far in front of the wheels. This is because you will have to extend your arms too far back to reach your wheels, which will strain your shoulders. Instead, the wheels should be as far forward as possible without making the wheelchair too unstable. An unstable wheelchair tips back into a wheelie too easily, which can make pushing your wheelchair stressful, tiring, and potentially dangerous. Wheels that are too far out to the sides are hard to reach. You may need to order a narrower wheelchair and cushion the next time you get a wheelchair to bring the wheels closer to your body. Even when you have good posture with well-positioned wheels, you will still have pain and fatigue with pushing the wheelchair if the tires start to go flat. Keep a pump and spare inner tubes with you at all times. Get into the habit of checking the tire air pressure every couple of weeks. If you tend to push on hard, smooth surfaces like tile floors most of the time, you will have an easier time pushing a high-pressure, low-tread tire. In contrast, if you typically push your wheelchair over gravel and grass, you may want a pair of tires that are low pressure with thick tread. However, low pressure, thick tread tires are typically too hard to push for everyday use on indoor surfaces or sidewalks, and should be reserved for specific activities. You may find that your hands slip on the smooth hand rims, especially when the rims are wet or if your hands are numb or weak. Your hands may ache or tingle when you grip the small tubing of standard hand rims. Consider alternatives such as rims with coatings and rims with wider oval tubing. If you struggle to maintain good wheelchair pushing form, you may need to think about other wheelchair products on the market. You may want to explore a mechanical or motorized attachment for your ultralight wheelchair or potentially a power chair. A wheelchair seating clinic can help you make these decisions over your lifetime. Continually reevaluating your wheelchair seating and technique will help you preserve your shoulders, avoid pain and weakness, and be as independent as possible as time goes on.
So again, I just really want to reiterate that's such a nice clip when it comes to sharing all the interactions between your propulsion capability, the setup of the chair, your posture, the components that you use, and they all feed together in creating a mobility, postural support, and skin integrity solution that works for you. Come on, baby. There we go. For manual wheelchair riders, one of the most important things is to think about preserving your upper extremities. And as a physical therapist of advanced age, we went through therapy school, and there was a motto called "Use it or lose it." And I'd like to tell you that we've evolved, certainly in the wheelchair world, where we want to conserve to preserve. So the good news is folks are living a lot longer in the presence of physical disabilities. And the outcome is you're now aging with a disability. And so we really want to be sure that you're able to age as effectively and functionally as possible. And one of the most common challenges for people who self-propel for many, many, many years is shoulder pain. That's a result of rotator cuff impingements, and wrist pain. That's a part of carpal tunnel. And the Consortium for Spinal Cord Medicine, with the support of PVA, put out these clinical guidelines several years ago. And the most important things that came out were properly configured wheelchairs can make a huge impact on preservation of your upper extremities. Um, Additionally, there was a description of different products that can also preserve your upper extremities. And Power Assist has really become a product category that's a bridge between manual and power. And it's built to give you the flexibility of a manual chair, but reduce the force and the frequency of your upper extremities trying to negotiate, particularly a carpeted area, or going up and down, going up hills in particular, or grassy surfaces, or any soft surfaces that require a lot more stress of your upper extremities to successfully negotiate your chair. So there's the fifth wheel that's added to the chair. Smart Drive is one. Alber's recently come out with a new one called Smooth On. These are really terrific additions to your existing chair. And the other alternative is also an Alber product where the motor is built into the wheel itself. And as a general overgeneralization, the fifth wheel's easier for people who have good fine dexterity in their hands to control, and the motor inside the wheel tends to be easier for people with less dexterity. So perhaps somebody with quadriplegia using a manual chair finds the motor within the wheel version to be easier to operate in multiple environments. But if you're having any upper extremity issues, I highly encourage you to explore adding Power Assist and see if it can bridge you before you go to the next category. So in the hierarchy, The next group are scooters. For many people, the best feature of a scooter is it doesn't look like a wheelchair. And that could be an ever important reason that still allows somebody access to self-generated mobility that allows them to get back into the community. There's not a ton of rehab components to scooters because you have to have the skill level to be able to get in and out of it. You have to be able to maintain your trunk stability while you're actually driving. And you have to have the upper extremity strength and control to operate the tiller. So if you can do all of those things and you really like the look of the scooter, it's certainly a great mobility device, really in the community and a little bit less so in your home. When a scooter doesn't work, we now move to the power chair world. And I won't bore you through a CMS coding lesson of why some chairs are called group 2s and why are called group 3s, but I will give you a couple of feature differentiation so that you can become a more articulate consumer. So long story short, group 2 chairs were actually built just for use in the home. So their obstacle climbing ability is about 1.6 inches. And if you look around door thresholds, either in your home or in an apartment or in apartment buildings, door thresholds are an inch. So it's not much more than a door threshold that these chairs are designed to have climbing ability. Their speeds are roughly walking speed, but their dynamic stability, their ability to go up an incline, is a very gentle incline. They're really not designed for curb cuts in New York City of any variety. So a group 3 chair is really built for indoor and outdoor, has increased climbing ability, minimum top speed is at least 4.5 miles an hour, and the inclines are closer to 1 in 10. When we look at group 2 chairs from a clinical perspective, we're asking ourselves, what kind of seating can I put on this chair? What's the programmability and what's the suspension? And I'm going to go very quickly through this part. So clinicians and suppliers in the complex rehab world, we call these sit and go chairs. If you can sit in it and drive it, it might be a perfectly fine chair. But if you have postural support needs, or you have pressure relieving needs, or you need to adjust the programming of the chair, they're totally limited. They're not going to meet your needs. Notice I took this picture from the top down because it really is like a car seat. And if you're comfortable sitting all day in a car seat, this might be an okay device for you. Many people that use group 2 chairs are able to get out of the chair. They're using the chair as an augment to their mobility, and it's not their primary means of getting around. I mentioned indoor use, particularly caution you about the small wheels. They're not good for outdoor negotiation. I also want to show the drive control. It's a joystick only. There's no alternate controls. There's no programming. It's on or off. And it's basically speed adjustment is by this little dial, and there's only one program. And then the last thing is there are these little springs under the hood that somebody might think of them as being suspension, but they're really used for not getting hung up on a curb cut. They're really not designed to separate the rider from the bumps of the road. So generally, group 2 power chairs are not offering the user suspension in the ride. Group 3 chairs are probably the group that most folks on this call are familiar with. And they are really designed for indoor, outdoor. And from a product category, I'd really encourage you to look at where's the drive wheel. You have a rear wheel drive, and this is a really nice configuration if you like high speed, driving fast down the street with stability. Mid-wheel drives have the smaller turning radius. So if your indoor environment requires sharp turns and you have a hard time making those turns in a rear-wheel drive chair, you may want to consider a mid-wheel drive chair. And then a front-wheel drive chair puts the weight in the front of the chair, so you have improved obstacle climbing. And if for some reason your knee range of motion is limited, if you need your feet very close to the front edge of the seat, then a front wheel drive chair gives you that configuration. You can put your foot pedals right up close to the front edge of your seat. Group 3 power chairs have the most flexibility in terms of seating. And I just want to briefly give you an example where this is a young woman who has a congenital orthopedic impairment that resulted in scoliosis. She had a failed spinal surgery, and she needs a custom support to allow her to sit up all day sitting in the chair. And in addition to custom support, she also needs a method of relieving pressure. So posture, skin, and mobility all start to kind of tie up together here. So when we look at mobility bases, we also want to ask, how is the person able to relieve their own pressure? And for an active manual wheelchair rider, they may be able to shift their own weight and return themselves back to a functional and upright posture. So any movement in the manual chair, you want to be sure that you are unweighting. You're taking the pressure off. You can slide your hand underneath your buttocks. Make sure that that sitting bone isn't touching the surface anymore. For people who can't relieve their own pressure, that's when we get into power seating, and we look at power tilt, recline, and elevating leg rests to be sure that you're distributing the pressure over as big a surface area as you can. But when you put power seating onto a base, you have to be sure that the base is a big enough base so that you maintain stability. Group 3 power chairs give you a lot more options and controls. And here's an example where the display is now showing us that using the joystick, I can change the tilt of the chair. By changing the tilt of the chair, I'm taking control of my skin integrity. I can shift my weight. I can allow blood to get back underneath my buttocks. And all of that is in my control if I have power seating with a controller that allows me to control that position in space. I have up to 5 controls in a Group 3 power chair. And just to give you an example, some people say, why do I possibly need 5 controls? Well, you may want to set one drive control just for getting in and out of transportation vehicles, that you can flip to drive 4, and you know you're going to have a slower speed, slower turning, tighter turning radius, and a bit more torque so you can go up an incline. And then when you get off the bus or get out of your van or you're ready to hit the street, you click back to drive 1 and you have top speed with top acceleration. So you can customize depending on the environment where you routinely negotiate. I just want to share with you a couple of real examples of how programming can make the difference between what I would think is a satisfying driving experience versus a not so satisfying driving experience. So here's a young girl driving a joystick chair, and the chair has not been programmed at all. So here we go. And we're starting to lose it. So without any programming, all of her movements are going right through the joystick, and she has a lot of trouble maintaining a straight line. And then she gets into trouble as she's going kind of off the sidewalk and into the grass, and hopefully not off the curb completely. Not to mention how fatiguing it is to have to self-correct all the time. Now, same young girl, same stretch of sidewalk, but the chair has been programmed.
Hi.
Notice now she can talk and drive. And her ability to maintain a straight course is just so much easier. So programming is a really important feature. It's found in group 3 chairs. It's not found in other chairs. And more importantly, you have to be sure that somebody's programming the chair to meet your needs. So you may need to engage the ATP or the manufacturer and ask them to come and program your chair to meet your needs. And then the last thing I want to touch briefly on in these chairs is suspension. And certainly, I'm assuming many of you on this call are New York drivers of all ilks. And if you're driving in New York City, the bumps of the road can go right up through your seating system and into your trunk and up your spine and add to your discomfort. So that's where suspension really comes in. And different manufacturers are offering different suspension systems. And that's where test drives can become so helpful. So I encourage you, even within the category of group 3 chairs, get in them, drive them outside, and see what impact the suspension has on absorbing vibration and how much you're feeling as you are riding along. You shouldn't be feeling every bump in the road if the chair has a good suspension system. And lastly, our dependent mobility bases. They're really designed for people who aren't self-propelling, but they're really important intervention so that people have an option to get out of bed. Very quickly, one of the things we try and protect against is pressure injuries. And pressure injuries will occur for anybody who is not able to effectively shift their own weight. And if you have poor sensation on the seating surfaces, you're even at higher risk. So this is what we're trying to avoid. This is a classic ischial sitting bone pressure sore that was a result of a gentleman sitting without the ability to effectively change his own weight. You could look at your own cushion and say, am I at risk here? So this was a foam cushion that the foam had just bottomed out. It wasn't providing any more protection. The good news as a clinician, I look at this and go, oh, somebody sits very symmetrically. Both their left and right sitting bones are taking weight. The problem is it's sitting on plywood at this moment. So they really do need the whole seat replaced. And if you have any hint of redness on your skin, a change of the tactile feeling of the buttocks area, raise the attention. We should change the cushion before there's a problem that occurs underneath the sitting bones. So dependent mobility devices, along with both power seats as well, when you can incorporate the power seating or even manual tilts onto chairs, it allows somebody the maximum time out of bed and provides pressure relief without having to transfer the person. So I'm open for questions and would love to. And just a a plug. If anybody has a need and they're in the greater metro New York area, our clinic is called On a Roll, but I'm happy to open the floor and share questions with anybody on the audience.
I'm just going to chime in real quickly because I see Rachel is on here. And I just got a demo cushion because sitting is so important in your chair. My cushion is bottoming out on me and my back hurts me like nobody's business. So I'm sampling a cushion myself.
Yay! I always love it when practice is grounded in what's being said in the presentation. So thanks, Jessica. Thanks for sharing. So you have questions in the Q&A box? Want me to
How about we stop sharing so we could
Sure.
see
Yep.
everyone's face?
Perfect.
You know, I was looking at Julia's comment, and it's a good point. Like the expo is stressful because can't afford a lot of the stuff in there. But I mean, I think to one's ability, and it is true, like going through insurance and waiting, to get repairs or adjustments and this and that, definitely stressful. But tiny little things that I think we can learn to do ourselves is also important as well. So this way we can kind of just, and little things, if that's within our physical ability, of course.
Right.
So we have one comment from Mark. I'm like, shouldn't the programming be done by the tech or vendor before they leave the home, I guess?
Should is the operative word in that sentence. But I'll also say, you may think at the time of the original delivery that the setup is fine. It's factory settings. And it's only after you've been riding around for, maybe it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks, or maybe it's 3 months, or maybe the bus changes the type of bus that they're offering. Like, you may encounter a new environment that you consistently find yourself, I keep hitting my foot pedal on that corner, or, ooh, I'm really careful when I am negotiating this elevator. Or so there is a customization that you can request after the sale that says, now I have experience. Now I know, hey, I want to have at least one of my programs set up to be low speed, but a lot of force, so I can get up a hard incline. And maybe another one is, my grandmother's apartment has like the tightest turn. I might use it all the time, but I want the turn acceleration to be much lower. So it's an ongoing thing, would be my advice.
So
Something else you said to that about those different settings is another thing is good to have it for home attendants, because not all of them can drive the chair on the same speed that you can. So if you go into another mode where your home attendant can drive your chair if need be, that's also useful.
Yeah.
So who would someone contact if they want those changes to done after the purchase and receiving a year down the line?
Yeah.
I need it for the bus, like you said.
Yeah. So a really good first place to start is the supply company that you worked with, and hopefully you have some relationship either with the ATP as the supplier, or you may have chosen to work with that particular supplier because you really like the tech. And either the ATP or the technician, if they know you and they know your skill set well enough and they feel comfortable making that change, they'll go ahead and make it. If they're concerned that maybe something else is going on here in terms of just being completely sure that the setup is clinically appropriate, they may encourage you to make a follow-up appointment with a wheelchair clinic so that you can have a informed decision with a clinician, yourself, and a technician.
And for those of us who don't know, what is an ATP?
Oh, sure. An ATP, the letters stand for Assistive Technology Professional. And several of us have earned that credential. It comes through RESNA, which is the Rehab Engineering and Assistive Technology Society of North America. But for complex rehab products, and particularly the K5 chairs and the Group 3 power chairs and power seating, if you're going through insurance and largely going through Medicare, there's a requirement that an ATP be present as part of your evaluation. So the goal is hopefully you're getting some informed advice. I, who've done this for many, many, many years, am a firm believer in the team approach. You guys are the captains of the team, but I really find that a clinician with a well-informed supplier or an ATP really makes the dream work. And it's collaborative work, and it's not an expert telling you what to do. But
we got a question beforehand. It's with so many options on the market and not having the ability to try before you buy, how can you determine what would best work for you? Often things can't be exchanged, and you don't want to be stuck with something that isn't the best for you. Also, I'd love to know how to easily find outdoor chairs for various terrains, such as a beach, for example, and the best way to purchase a hand cycle that is built to what someone needs.
so I'm going to take the first half of the question first and really encourage people to think about themselves as a consumer and how many things would you buy without trying? Question mark. And so earlier, Jessica, you referenced the Abilities Expo, and I know it can be stressful, but it's also an unbelievable good resource in our geographic area. October 1st to 3rd, they're back in person. It's a great place to literally go and hop in devices and try some stuff out. Many wheelchair clinics, I would hope all of them in New York City, offer a trial opportunity. And I know the Honor Roll Clinic, which is housed in the ICS offices, we specifically have a demo area so people can test drive both in the clinic area, the surrounding neighborhoods, and in a unusual circumstances, we can even bring stuff to people's homes. So asking for trial before anything is specified. And if you aren't going through a clinic, many companies have manufacturers representatives calling the company, asking them who your regional or local representative is. Do they have a demo of the product that you're interested in? And finally, user to user, hey, anybody else using this device? Any chance I can connect with you and give it a try? I know when I first started working in New York City, little tiny bathrooms were brand new to me. I live up in Orange County. We don't have 19-inch doorways to get into our bathrooms. And so I called a company that was offering a product, and the company was kind enough to give my name to a customer who's using the device. And the customer was kind enough to reach out and say, I'm happy to have you come and look at this. We're happy to have it try out. So be creative, but go back to the companies. And I think the most important thing you can say is, I need a trial if you want me to buy this device. So just to give a chance, reach out peer to peer, and then obviously ask people if there is a return policy, if you're privately purchasing.
We have a lot of questions. It looks like
Sure.
we have one from Maria Della O. It says, I use a cane and roller walker to get around, especially outdoors. And when I travel, sadly, the medical insurance does not cover the RW, I'm assuming roll walker. And if they do, they only cover the basic. simple walker that does not serve me. I also don't see many articles and even PTs that focus on the social media, including row walker users.
So thank you very much. And clearly identifying the features of the rollator walker that works for you, that's a real key in the justification. There's always going to be the question, is there a lower cost option that fits your need? And if you know that you need larger wheels because you're going up and down uneven terrain, that becomes a justification. I will alert everybody, if you are a Medicaid recipient, I'm not speaking Medicare, I'm speaking Medicaid, there is a requirement to meet your mobility needs in your home as well as in the community. So if you need something in addition to a rollator walker to really be functional in the community, your Medicaid program should be funding that community-based product. Medicare, for a whole nother host of reasons that we could do a whole nother presentation on, the Medicare benefit is restricted to mobility in your home. And that's certainly an area that public policy should be changed, but that's the policy we have right now.
So I have a quick question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer. That's how often do insurance companies pay for new power chairs? Every 5 years? Question mark.
Well, the guidance is that the expected lifetime of a chair is 5 years. So there are conditions though. For example, if you are not able to manage the chair because of a changing condition, so you've lost weakness, take the manual wheelchair rider, chair's 3 years old, but rotator cuff and carpal tunnel have made manual mobility no longer functional, you can make a medical necessity argument for a product change under 5 years. Over 5 years, there's a debate. I have to be honest with you right now, is it 5 years and in need of repair, or is a 5-year utilization? I'm a big believer that if you've used the same chair for 5 years, you should be able to get access to new technologies, new devices that give you greater option for negotiating your world. So it's the key is defining the need. And after 5 years, you can say, I'm functional in the device, the type of device, but I'm in need of access to new technology. If it's under 5 years, you have to have a medical necessity.
All right, we have a lot of questions, and I know we are short on
Eh,
time.
I'm
I'm gonna
happy to come
ask.
back too, Jose, if around the funding issues.
Yep. I want to ask one question. What are some of the challenges for individuals who experience central cord injuries in getting a assistive technology?
Sure. So just so everybody knows, oftentimes folks with central cord have ambulatory skills, but they may have reduced energy, reduced coordination, and have sensory challenges. So their skin issues are important issues. Uh, I tend to ask the question of what's functional for this person. So I always say to people, it's great that you can take 5 steps in your bathroom. That makes your morning routine infinitely easier than if you're relying on a wheelchair in a bathroom. But if you can only take 15 steps outside your back door, you're not really functional in the natural environment in the community. So I would ask the person with central cord, where are you feeling your mobility is restricted? And what functional tasks are you not able to do without the assistance of technology? And then we look to match. the technology to allow the function will then allow for participation.
Jessica, you want to take any questions, or I just want to get to one more, and if you have any, if
I want to pick. I feel bad. Like we got all these questions.
We can connect and maybe get some responses and get them out if you want to do that.
Yeah, we could do that. Hey, people are also asking how can they reach out to you.
Sure. Go back to my share the screen. I can give you the contact information. And those are our physical locations. I also wanted to send out a big thank you. That's my email and my mobile number. And as I said, from a clinic standpoint, we are part of the family of ICS services, and specifically our wheelchair clinic is called On a Roll. You can get in touch with us with an email at onaroll@ics.org, or our phone number is right up there on the screen, and our clinic can meet your needs.
So with that being said, I'm going to apologize to everyone. You know, we're up on time. Our ASL interpreter is also done the hour, and I'm sorry. We have so many questions. We have 15 questions, a bunch of comments in the chat area. Maybe we can do a follow-up and address people's questions. The video will be up on our YouTube channel, NYC Spinal. And with that said, I want to thank Jean, Minkel, thank everyone who joined us and watched us. Jessica, thank you. Thank you, Mary. Jessica. Yeah, I want to have
Thanks so
everyone
much.
have a good afternoon.
Thank you,
And
guys.
thanks to all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Bye.
Bye.
So, I mean,